I'm transitioning, Scott. General Christopher Cavoli, 4-star commander of CENTCOM. This is like the Supreme Allied Commander. This guy fellow commands all NATO troops in Europe, if I'm not mistaken. Said that Russia lacks the number of troops, the skills, the capability for a breakthrough. His friend, I don't know who this fellow is, Admiral Bauer, says Russian troops are of inferior quality to American and to Ukrainian. This is crazy stuff. But my question to you is, you can put these two aside or take them on if you want. How does the Russian military compare to the American military at this moment in time?
On the field of battle, the Russian military will prevail. They are combat hardened, and it's not just combat hardened. They are hardened based upon modern technologies, modern tactics, the modern techniques of warfare. They understand what it's like to operate in an electronic warfare intensive environment. They know how to use and defend against these FPV drones, which America has no experience in. They have perfected their fire support communications so that they can locate targets, bring fire support down. And again, remember, this is done in an electronic warfare intensive environment with very aggressive jamming done by the Ukrainian forces of Russian communications. They know how to logistically support themselves in war. You know, the United States, we take all of our, if you go to the national training, the NTC National Training Center in Fort Irwin, California, where the U.S. Army runs brigade-sized evolutions, supposed to be realistic. Take a look at their logistics support plan. Look at how they support things logistically. We're still doing it out of the Cold War playbook, where we are bringing in convoys of fuel trucks, convoys. We set up big centralized logistics supply points, and our troops, operate from that. You do that in a modern war, that will be hit by missiles and destroyed. There's nothing left. The Russians have perfected the art of breaking this logistics into penny packets, which are then infiltrated into the front lines to support the troops. So if you get one, you don't cause the whole operation to come apart. The Russians are savvy, and it's not just local knowledge. The Russians have institutionalized this. They have taken their commanders from the front lines, and they've taken them to their academies, the Combined Arms Academy, the General Staff Academy, where not only have they taken the knowledge that they have, they've taken knowledge of others, consolidated it, thought it through, come up with doctrine and retaught it, brought these guys back so they can train troops. Now they're putting them in command of the troops on the ground. From the top to the bottom, the Russians are operating off of the same modern, up-to-date doctrine, which is derived from the lessons of real war, not the theory. With all due respect to Christopher Cavoli, he hasn't fought in a real war, not this kind of war. His experience is related to low-intensity conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan. He doesn't know this, but he admitted this in 2023, in early 2023, when he spoke to a Swedish Defense Forum. He admitted, he said, we can't imagine the scope and scale of the violence taking place in Ukraine today. And if you can't imagine it, that means you're not ready to fight it. Today, he's been politicized. Today, he's saying utter nonsense. Look, American troops, we march better. There's no doubt about that. I mean, when the Russians have their parade troops, they do a good job, but we march better. We have better administrative paperwork, I bet. Who knows? But when it comes to fighting, getting out there and hooking and jabbing with the enemy, there's no finer military force today than the Russian army.
All right. One last observation. You'll either laugh or be angry at me. I'm not even going to introduce her, but she's back. Cut number 6.
I think if the attacks are coming directly from over the line in Russia, that those bases ought to be fair game, whether they are where missiles are being launched from or where they are where troops are being supplied from. I think it's time for that because Russia has obviously escalated this war, including, as you said at the beginning, attacking Russia's second city, Kharkiv, which is not on the front lines, and trying to decimate it without ever having to put a boot on the ground. So I think it is time to give the Ukrainians more help hitting these bases inside Russia.
Hitting these bases inside Russia. Madame World War III, she wants it.
There's a reason why she's the former Assistant Deputy Secretary of State, because she was articulating this policy. There was a time when what she was saying was in line with the Biden administration's policy thinking regarding Ukraine. There's a reason why we supplied Ukraine with some of the weapons we did, with the intelligence we did, etc. But it became clear that the Ukrainians weren't going to hold the line, that the Ukrainians were going to collapse, and that if you provoked the Russians, that this could lead to an expansion of the conflict that the United States and NATO weren't prepared to respond to effectively, and that this could create the kind of escalation that leads to direct military conflict, which the Biden administration sought to avoid. They cautioned Nuland not to articulate this. She went behind their backs, pushed the Pentagon behind the scenes, spoke with the Ukrainians behind the scenes, and was fired as a result. She's just simply out there, speaking publicly about that which got her fired. Fortunately, no one in the Biden administration is listening to her. She's a disgraced former official. She's just playing, to her, I think they sent her to Columbia or to Harvard or someplace where she has her sinecure, and she's just trying to appease those who underwrite her current academic status.
She's at, you'll love this. She's at Columbia, where she teaches a class with Hillary Clinton.
Well, there you go. We just, the world's in great hands.
If ever there were. Scott, I gotta go. Thank you very much, my dear friend. I know we have to talk about a few things, but I'll reach out to you.
Okay, thank you.
Very much appreciated. Thank you so much for coming on, as always.
Thanks.